We're going to have show and tell, and that's a combination of just anything you made, but also this month's challenge response, which was platters. Make a platter.
This is my platter. Tiny little plate. It's hors d'oeuvre. It's flaming red box elder, and it's got a walnut oil finish and a peel puff. This here is a Lazy Susan. That's walnut. And the finish on it is slow turn poly.
What is it?
What kind of polish? Slow turn poly.
Polyurethane. Polyurethane.
Polyurethane, yeah. You gotta make a machine that turns it real slow. So when you apply it,
you got to.
and it takes, the more coats you put on, the shinier it gets. I think that's 2 coats.
Is that a particular kind of product, or is it
Just regular old polyurethane.
I just trying to real slow?
Yes.
And what's the RPMs when you turn it slow?
Pardon me?
What's the RPMs turning it slow?
About 12 to 20.
Do you do that on your lathe, or do you have a?
I have a jig that I made. I'll bring it in next time if you want me to.
Yes.
Okay. That's it.
Good camera. Okay.
There you go.
This first one is for Jim. Jim, I think I now officially qualify for the Funnel Club. I think you're the president of that, if I recall correctly.
I thought that's what I was going to get hit with.
In any event, yeah, most of the stuff I turn, I usually am very careful about that, and I leave maybe even too much at the base. This time I poked through. And not knowing what else to do, I decided to put a plug in it, and then I had a good-sized piece sticking up.
Put it down. That's okay.
I had a good-sized piece sticking up, so I thought I'd turn a pinion. It's not done yet, but yeah, when you put a hole in the bottom, well, that slows down the process. And then couple others. That one's Cypress, and I envy these guys that get these wonderful smooth finishes, but I've been working with my scraper, and I think I'm making progress on some of that. This one, monkey pod wood, courtesy of Karl. Thank you, Karl. That one was a couple months back.
Tip it up so we can see the grain. We'll turn it towards the camera. There you go.
What kind of wood is that?
Called monkey pod wood from Hawaii.
No, it's a Asian native, but it's also known as golden rain tree. It's an ornamental that's often planted here.
Okay.
Yard trees, monkey pod or golden rain tree.
And then the last one is a walnut crotch piece, and depending on how you look at it, you get to see the different grains show up. So 4 pieces. That's my offering.
Thank you, Alan.
So this is a piece of spalted maple. I kept the live edges, so I didn't feel like I didn't want just a platter from this small little piece in here. But it's a little bit of a bugger to turn once I was hitting air on these edges. I cheated and did carbide tools mostly, but then did the finishing with traditional tools, because that's how I'm trying to trend my work towards traditional tools. But let's go back. I still need to buff out the finish, but very nice.
What if you use something?
Shellac.
Oh, really?
Shellac? Yeah. Wow.
Thank you, Matt. My piece goes easy on the wood turning, easy on the turning period. The only piece that's turned is with a cherry, I think it was cherry burl that bonded onto the center here. I made my first investment in slow curing epoxy about 2 weeks ago. And just on a sample piece, I realized that you have a number of hours where you can fool with that stuff if you pour it onto either a sheet of polyethylene, or I have some silicone arts and crafts mats, white silicone 1/8-inch thick mats. And you pour the epoxy on there, and it stays liquid for probably about anywhere it would run for about 8 hours. Then about 24 hours after it's been mixed and poured, it gets to a almost like a fruit roll-up state, where as long as it's on a non-stick surface, you could in fact roll it up, but of course it's going to stick to itself. But if you are right about the 30-hour mark, and I basically took some wood scrap, 3/8 plywood wood scrap, and glued up a circular surround, so that when I poured the epoxy, it didn't just keep on running, because it will. And I had it on a very level surface, and a little bit of math, and knew to get 2/10 of an inch thick, how much to mix. And poured it, and like I said, about 30 hours after I had mixed it, and I put in some, it looks kind of greenish, but it's actually a yellow that I poured around the edge, and it bled toward the center. But you can just go ahead and suspend it under its own weight. It will sag a little bit, and you can encourage it to sag more by putting about 4 years ago, Angelo gave me a bunch of mahogany balls, 5-inch diameter balls that you were getting rid of, and I cleaned them, and putting that with a sheet of polyethylene trash bag between the ball and the epoxy, and then put like a cantilever block of wood for extra weight to get it so it would settle down, so that it would give me enough of a deformation so that it would be a platter. And you just let it sit for 2 more days, and then you can take wet or dry paper and sand it.
So the clear plastic is not turned?
It's not turned, other than the rim.
Okay.
Barry, could you have done the same thing by taking a platter, the shape you wanted, inverting it, or actually just putting making it stick free, either spraying it with silicone or using a silicone rubber mat, pouring the epoxy in there and have it, do what you say, create your pancake, and then just have that sag into the platter, like as opposed to complicated jigs where you got to get Angelo.
Well, it has to set to a point of no longer flowing.
Right, but once it's done that, couldn't you just find a platter that is the shape you wanted and just let it sag over the platter?
So use it like a form, maybe?
Yeah, like you would like if you were fusing glass.
I guess if you had release agent, like a, PVA or
silicone.
what's that stuff that you spray on molds?
Yeah.
Lecithin or something.
Yeah.
As long as you spray a release agent, because even though the epoxy feels like it's all done being sticky,
Yeah.
the next day it will have stuck to whatever it was on, and very hard to stick. And years ago, before they ever had the slow cure epoxy, the job I had, we used to mold plastic as long as it conformed to a parabolic shape with a vacuum jig, and you just fill the desired vacuum until you put it under a heat lamp, so it was plexiglass, and you'd heat it so where your fingers could deflect it, and put it under a partial vacuum to where it had sagged to the amount that you wanted, stop the vacuum there, take the heat lamps away, and about 20 minutes later, you had a finished item.
So how did you eliminate bubbles? So did you go?
The slow cure epoxy, the reason I bought it, the reason most people use it, is you don't have to put it in a pressure pot or anything else. It takes so long to cure
bubbles.
that even the little tiny bubbles rise to the surface and bust. This is not the natural surface is almost like,
Got a little texture to it.
it's got like a texture to it, like a slight ripple. But I think I started with 240 grit, and quickly I was down to 3,000 grit, and so it cleaned up easily.
That's pretty cool.
Now, I had not yet bought the silicone mat when I made this one. I had a silicone mat that was meant to put on a grill. They're a black silicone, and they have a texture. It's like a fine checkerboard texture. And so I had a checkerboard texture on the bottom, and that was appreciably more sanding.
That was pretty cool, though. You could have left that. That would be
And
pretty
then I
cool.
started with 80 grit.
The way the light reflected off that.
Hey, Barry, potters call that slump molding, I think.
I'm sorry?
They call that slump molding, and you let it slump.
I know glass, if you're a person that does glass work, it's called slump. But I wasn't sure if that would be applied to this, but yes, it is slumping.
I've just been finishing this in the last couple of days. I demonstrated doing this a while ago in a club with the three thing mold or whatever, but it's a burl that I got down in Maryland with Jim Bowman, and just trying to figure out. I really like the three bowl thing, and so this is sort of a half flat or half bowl, I guess, is the best way to describe it. And if you turn back on it, it's also got a.
Did you turn that?
Pardon?
Did you turn that?
Yeah.
Not the back.
Not the back, the bowls, yeah.
Outboard turning.
M&M's three ways.
I've got some videos if you want to see it.
How did you hold it?
Hold it very, very carefully.
Three
No.
gouges of different sizes. And
No, what you end up doing, I
you got to do that demo again.
Yeah, I can show you. I can do a demo again. But what I actually have is I have a Powermatic, and this thing turns out to the end, and I actually have a 48-inch diameter piece of plywood, and so that what you do is you center up the first bowl, and then counterbalance it, and so that it's take all the wobble out of it, and then turn that one, and then send up this one in the center of the bowl, and counterbalance it again, so I can move it around a piece of plywood, so the various pieces are there.
How are you keeping the piece in the headstock? I turned that over to see what it looked like on the bottom. The bottom looks like, I don't see any holes or.
Yeah, that's because there are none. What I did on the mounting, if you mount it this way up and find the level, stick pieces underneath here, and then use hot glue to stick those mounts on. And then after the hot glue is done, I put another bunch of pieces around the outside here to hold it from going sideways. And then in addition to that, I put a strap over the top of it so that to make sure it didn't.
Then you hot glue the strap.
No, I didn't hot glue the strap.
Nails.
I just screwed the strap.
That's very impressive too.
Well,
The video of his demo is on our YouTube page.
yeah.
You go to the club YouTube page. The video's up.
Anyway, I was making this for the instant gallery for the AEW or for our meeting in 2 weeks. So that's where it's going for. And then I have a question for anybody who wants. Excuse me.
Well, what finish do you have on that, Doug?
Just polyurethane.
How many coats?
This one here's got 3 coats on top.
Okay.
And then I could put more, but it's high gloss. And I'm experimenting with the feet at the moment. So, you know, the issue that comes back is how to level up the foot properly. Whether I put a ball in here someplace or different size balls to make the feet directly. But why does it have to have feet? Well, just to try and make it level. I'm not trying to make it. I want it level. I literally want to just put two pieces so that this is level when it sits on the surface. But other than that, it's going to just sit on its own sort of thing. I can't do it here, but how about a half a ball? Well, that's the other, yeah, half a bowl, something along that line. Anyway. Half a bowl. There's all sorts of different shapes you can use. There you go. See something like that. Perfect.
What about cone shaped feet?
Yeah, that's a good question. My problem with the ball shaped feet is they just look a little bit bulky and take the eye away from it.
But if you, since you already have a flat face, if you mount the flat face back onto your big plywood disc,
Yeah.
and that you already have one point,
Yeah.
and on the other two,
Sure.
turn cones, that would go.
Something like that. This is actually a piece of the same wood that I was thinking of. I could take and cut something down in that shape. So, the question of ball or cone or whatever, and as you said, Barry, I actually had this turned. Sorry. If I lay that down flat, now I can actually take and have a surface across there and make it 3 points and just decide where it is. But anyway, that's...
Doug,
Yeah.
why do you need to preserve the spalting bark on the bottom? The burl bark on the bottom? Just flatten it out. Don't bother adding feet. That takes away from the artistry of it.
Artistry?
Or isn't there enough of, if you put it on the lathe again and turn it flat across there, is there any way you can get it to sit without adding feet to it?
You have a statement, Jim.
You have a point.
What if you made a stand for it?
Yeah, that's another.
So rather than attaching something to the bottom where you'd have to ruin the bottom surface, make a 3-pronged stand that it just sits on.
Yeah.
And that sits at level, and then if someone wants to lift it up and see that beautiful burl on the bottom, they can.
That was the idea. So I even like that. So go ahead, Jim.
I don't understand the value of preserving the bark on the bottom. I just don't. That's the ugly part of a burl, and it's on the bottom.
That's a subjective comment, Jim. Some people actually like to take a look at it and see what the burl looks like. And one of the reasons for actually doing that is that one of the things I've been doing is the making as a donation thing is I've been making pens and stuff like that out of burl wood and donating to the Cancer Society. What I tell people, and this is a real good illustration, is that some of the things that people don't realize is that burls are essentially cancers on trees. And when you turn that over and see the beauty that can come out of what is a very ugly situation, and so to me, that really reinforces the idea. And people say, well, for cancer patients, and I'm a cancer patient myself, and they say, well, how can this be? Well, you meet new people, there's a lot of friends, some of us actually survive, so there's an awful lot of beauty that come out. And so rather than being scared, and the other reason I do it, Jim, is honestly, because again, people look at that and say, my God, that's ugly. And,
cool.
And they don't understand how that comes out of the middle of that. So,
hey, Doug, how heavy is that? The average person is not going to come and pick up a car. That's too much of a beast.
You're right, Jim.
Along the same lines as what Jim's saying, I was thinking, why not just plain like 2 or 3 points?
Yeah.
So that you have, 3 points of contact. Maybe some of it will be the burl, some of it will be planed, and then you'll be seeing some of the grain may come out, and you might see some beauty of the burl that way.
And if you set it down on a table and you had a 3-point contact and put a mirror on the middle of it, you could actually see the underneath.
Why can't it? Let me just throw this out. Why not just let it rest? Let it be what it is. Why do you have to make it level? What is in you that says it has to be level?
My engineer.
Yeah.
Arrange for it. I would make it vertical.
And leave the damn
for a vertical display.
I mean, if you're not going to put stuff in the bowl, it doesn't really need to be
It'll
flat.
hold M&Ms with an angle like that.
Oh yeah, it'll hold anything. It'll hold lots of stuff with that.
Because
who mentioned that? Vertical, Doug, have you thought about hanging it or propping it vertical?
You putting it this way?
Yes, that's what I said.
Art is three-dimensional, right? Having an eye draw to the backside of it too is fantastic to me.
Yeah.
Displays better vertically.
Woodturner will always turn that over.
Yeah. A lot of
That's
people.
what I did. I saw it over there. I like, what the heck did you do that? I turned that over. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My challenge is we're talking to turners. The average Joe is not going to go and pick up that piece.
No, but the average Joe that's going to be able to afford that piece is going to have a house big enough that his servants have to pick it up. to dust it somewhere.
I think it's a good idea, Doug, that you are trying like hell to keep the underside of that intact.
Yeah.
I applaud that. It's something that I try to do when I screw around with burl. One of the things that you want to try to encourage people to do is to look at things from a non-standard point of view, and it doesn't have to be sold to the lowest common denominator. It doesn't have to appeal to everyone. What you're trying to do is express you're an engineer, you're trying to solve a technical issue and do it gracefully. So I think keep going, and we've all given you feedback. But no, I'm going to go with the bottom side of that is not ugly.
Oh.
So I have
Put it over on the stand.
a bowl that I made 3 days ago?
3 days
Two days ago. That might stop. I think it's black cherry, my first bowl ever. First anything. And I have no idea what the finish is.
Walnut oil.
What is it?
Walnut oil.
Walnut oil. So,
Nice. Good job.
Very nice. We see the bottom.
yeah.
I mean,
Good job.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, well done.
You have an eye for shape.
you got to put your mark and date on the bottom.
Yeah, I do that. Thank
Good
you.
job.
Thank you.
This is a Richard Raffin box, end grain Australian red cedar. This is a Bob Kraus Osage orange box, 1984, end grain. This is a piece of walnut, end grain. Turned green. That's me. That's about 30 thousandths the size.
So is that less than a 16th?
This is less than a 16th, and the whole thing weighs, it's less than a 16th, the whole thing weighs, now it's dry, I think it's about 18 grams. This is a piece of Osage orange, end grain. Turned green a year ago, no finish, nada. Piece of walnut, turned 3 months ago, end grain, no finish.
See the bottom on the walnut?
What are you using for tools to turn end grain?
Bowl gouge. Start to finish with this piece was 100% bowl gouge, only tool touch that. Bowl gouge.
How do you write
And one cut here on the base to start. The very last detail was the spindle gouge for just a second because I decided I wasn't putting any finish on this. So I went ahead and used the spindle gouge. I don't have a problem with spindle gouge, but I'd just like to try to explore a tool and maximize the tool. It's just the thing I do with myself. Everyone can do their own thing their own way. That's fine. I just like trying to explore a tool as much as I can. So those are some end grain projects since Angela was doing that. So anyway.
When you're hollowing with a bowl gouge and end grain, how do you ride the bevel?
Same way, the bevel's a matter of geometry. It's your end grain. You're fighting the wood a little harder.
At the bottom, but like the sides, are you going in?
The bottom, you're going to do a little scraping. If you're going to do something narrow like this, you can use a scraper, or you can go in with a gouge. Something a little bigger, I'm only going to use the gouge on that. I can use the scraper, but I want to use the gouge, and then sand it. And there's nothing wrong with using a scraper. There's nothing wrong with using multiple tools. It's a head game for me.
Carl, when you're using whatever tool you're using,
Yeah.
are you respecting, as Angelo was saying, the upgrade, downgrade, so that you're doing a pull cut?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not just jam it in, it's not a bull in a china shop approach. Although when you're roughing, hell's bells, get her done.
All belts are up.
Yeah. But yeah, when you're finessing, obviously you're trying to find that fine little detail and get as much done. Sanding sucks. We all do it, but sanding sucks. So anyway, that was that. Then when we're all done, I have one little thing to show you from Mile Watts.
Okay.
I brought these in because I'm doing a Chesapeake Club demo, I think in November, and I'm going to show them how to make the gilder's paste and a bunch of different ways to use it. So the easiest way to do that is just do tea light holders. And really I just wanted folks to look at them over on the table and give me their thoughts about which one they like the best and which one they like the least. I'm doing 10 examples, and then I'm going to do probably 6 different stages of this process, because they meet at 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning, and they go till 11, and they have an hour-long business meeting. And I was like, and show and tell. I was like, oh, so the demo's like 30 minutes. So I'm going to have to, there's some negotiating that has to happen, but I figure if it's a 45-minute demo, you're going to have things in 8 different phases, and just be like, the magic of television. Hopefully they have an oven I can pull stuff out of, because there's just no way to, you can't do this process.
On the black one, how did you get that texture?
So this is ash, and I just fire sanded it. I just burned it, and then scrubbed out the winter growth. And then all of them are India inked, except where there's wood. They're not India inked, obviously. And then here, I don't know. Yeah, you can't, the video won't capture it, but.
How did you get that? How did you get that?
So that's a Sorby texturing tool, but I sand it down a little bit, because otherwise you just get tear out. It's a great tool for spiraling, but this is not spiraling. This is at a 90-degree angle. So if you use that Sorby tool at a 90-degree angle, you rip the crap out of the wood. So if you sand it back a little bit, you get a rounder surface. You can get all kinds of cool textures. And then if you use the sort of gilder's paste stuff or equivalents, you can really highlight certain textures. This is actually I don't know, did I do this demo with Dave Souza? Did we do this color demo here? We did it here. Yeah, so this is this is one I stole from Souza. This is called Hot Lava, and it's an automotive mica that we turned into gilder's paste, and it shows really well. This one hasn't been buffed out. It actually changes color quite a bit, and then this doesn't change color at all. This just stays the way it is. But I'll bring in others. That's probably next month, just to get a chance to finish them. They're all in various stages all over, and there'll be lots of color combinations, and I'd really love people's feedback about what color combinations turn them on.
I dig the one with the candle.
Say that again?
I like the one with the candle.
Yeah, this particular mic is cool, and in not these lights, it shifts from blue to green to purple to, and this one does too, but you can't see it at all. The teal to gold to mauve. So yeah, this one, the texture really shows up well on this, because one of the bad things about hot lava is that in the
Point under the camera.
In the grooves, it turns, and the white, the wax is really what you're seeing as opposed to the mica, and then on the surface, the mica really shines, but it does show up well against black. That white wax shows up really well against the black, whereas this one will just color shift, but you don't see as much of the texture. So I'm playing with lots of different, the teal on this shows up really well in the grooves. You can buff it off. So I'm just playing with a bunch of different textures and color combinations to see what makes me happy.
Why India ink rather than dye?
Because India ink has shellac in it, and dye doesn't, you'd be doing multiple coats of dye and then painting it with shellac. So if I do black India ink, I've done 2 processes at one time because I need the shellac in order to be able to buff them back. So the shellac gives you the shiny surface, and the Gilder's paste won't stick to the shiny surface, so you can buff it off or use mineral spirits or mineral spirits to take the color off the top and leave it in the grooves. If you use dye, you'd have to do multiple coats to get it this black. Also, I should tell you that the color shifting mica powder has to have a black base, and so if you use dye, think about how many coats of dye you'd have to use to get it the black color of India ink, and then you'd have to shellac it on top of that, or spray it with lacquer, or do some similar process. So with India ink, it's all done at one time.
Does the India ink across the board, does it already have shellac in it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Shellac's a really good sealer. Goes under and over just about everything.
But the artesian dyes from Craft Supplies is shellac based.
That's just a still of some apples. They're spinners. And looks like something took a bite out of them. I left them out in the shop too long. That's just a little acorn. They're easy to make tops out of. Well, this is a box I make for children. The bottom of the top has grooves in it, and I put the child's name and birth date on it. Walnut with a maple lid. This is a type I make for girls. Their name's on the bottom. Has a little acorn on top, spinner. Give them to them with their birth date on it. There's the apple something took a bite out of.
The apple, Dave, that's carved out or painted on?
Carved out.
It's carved out.
Okay.
Email me and I'll give you show you how I did it. And finally, this has one of those balloon lights in it, but if I had the balloon light on, it's a spaceship. I has the child's name on it. And it says Starship and then the child's name. It's dated on the bottom, so that's the birth date. So basically, the International Top Spinning Day is the second Wednesday in October. I don't want to interfere with any of the challenges that are already present, but I thought maybe some of these, you guys could come up with something different. And
Dave, what takes place on the actual International Day?
the International Day was started in '03 by the Burlington, Wisconsin Top Spinning and Yo-Yo Museum.
So there is no like YouTube, Zoom thing where people are all spinning their tops on that day.
I have no idea. I just discovered it last year, so
Okay.
I really don't know.
Okay.
There might be.
Okay, this is a batter. It's about 10 inches. It's made of ash, and there's fitting in there. Like that. This is an apple tree from my neighbor, about 15 inches in diameter. And this one, I just turned the last day or two. This is oak.
So is that red spinner going to be your signature?
Yeah, sometimes.
I saw it in a couple.
I like it's a texturing tool, and I do like the effect of that. So I play around and I do different things with that. Try different textures, and that's all I have.
And then there was one last thing not related to Mawatts. We have an auction this year, a live auction. First time we're doing this. We've got works coming from David Ellsworth, Derek Weidman, Michael Kays, Carol Hall, These are Dale Chase. We've got a Mel Lindquist coming. So these are rose engine turned. I believe Dale Chase has since passed. A lot of his collection was left to benefit the Museum for Art and Wood in Old City, Philadelphia, and the founder of the museum is the executor of that trust designation to the museum. So he's dispersing these things in the benefit or for the benefit of the museum. So these will be two items that will be auctioned.
What, Blackwood or?
This, I believe, is African Blackwood. And the top insert is pink ivory. So you can see the nice detail on the bottom, the sides, and the top. That's a really nice piece. This is African Blackwood.
This is also by Dale Chase.
Is also Dale Chase. This piece is 1988. This piece is 2005. Can you able to get it? Yeah, okay. Let me kind of find the.
If brick zooms in, you should be able to see the texture on
And
the
chased
inside.
on the inside.
These are rose engine turned. So there's a hell of a nice detailing, rose engine detailing inside these. You can just see a little bit of, there we are. Okay. So these were two reasonable pieces. These will be available at the auction, which will be at the luncheon on Sunday. Like I say, there's a number of other pieces that we're going to have in the auction that are available, and it's a really good opportunity, perhaps, to get your hands on some things because this auction's not open to the public. It's not online. You have to attend to have a crack at this work. So it's a good opportunity. Come see and purchase. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.